You're tuned in to the Dakota Housing Network on Super Talk 1270 and supertalk1270.com. In-depth discussion and analysis of real estate issues nationwide and those issues unique to our area. Our team of experts includes Joe Sheehan, Greg Larson, Dave Flohr, Brian Ritter, and a great variety of guests. The Dakota Housing Network begins now on Super Talk 1270 and supertalk1270.com.
Good morning, Bismarck, Mandan. I guess I'm your expert, Dave Flohr.
I guess so.
Okay, and the chairman of the board, Jim Walsh.
Start spreading the news.
There you go, man.
There you go. Well, this weather.
Do you do it your way?
I do it my way. Well, if I were doing it my way, I'd be home sleeping. Nothing personal, of course.
Of course, yes. All right. Okay, yes, folks, Dave Flohr and Jim Walsh here on the Dakota Housing Network. Our cohorts, Joe Sheehan, Greg Larson, Brian Ritter, they're not here today.
Yeah, Mr. Larson had some things to do.
He's at his final North Dakota Realtor board meeting.
So he'll come back with some very useful information?
They're kicking him off. He's on his final leg.
Is he retiring?
No, he's not retiring. He's just going through the cycle, as a board member and all that stuff. He was president. And
they have term limits.
Kind of like term limits.
Term limits, yes.
There's a novel idea, isn't it? Yeah. The realtors know how to do things, gosh darn it.
Yes.
Yes, they do. All right. Well, let's see. Jim, as always, first thing we start off with are mortgage rates. How are they doing? I guess I have to tell you because I'm the expert.
You're the guy.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, let's see. What are our rates doing? The 10-year Treasury yield, this is according to the Freddie Mac survey as of today.
Freddie.
Oh,
Freddie Mac.
There we go. Is that a song?
Jimmy Mac, yeah.
Jimmy Mac is, yes. Okay. Well, we can change the lyrics on this show if we want to. Okay. Freddie Mac. The 10-year Treasury yield dipped this week following the release of the job openings and labor turnover survey. Oh, that's exciting news right there. The 30-year mortgage rate rose another 5 basis points to 4.13 is the average. So that's starting the month 18 basis points higher than this time last year. Next week, there's going to be the Federal Reserve's committee meeting, which the talk of the town is what it will be, and markets are 95% certain of a quarter-point rate hike. But yes, the 30-year fixed rate average was up 5 basis points from last week, and the 15-year was up also 2 basis points. It's at 3.36. Last week it was at 3.34. So still, folks, good interest rates. There might be, it's kind of flattened out. They had a big rise in the last couple weeks. It's kind of flattened out here the last couple days. I would say if you haven't locked in your interest rate already, you probably would want to do that at this point. There might be a window where they might dip down. I think today they're probably having probably going up a little bit today because the European Commission said they're going to continue to do quantitative easing, but they're not buying as many bonds as they were before. So the markets had a little negative reaction to that. But it'll survive. But rates are still good. 4%. It's not 3%. The average rates are 4%, but that is still a very good number on a 30-year mortgage and an excellent number on a 15. So. And our friend Barry Habib at the MBS Highway, what do they say today? Well, he talked about that the European Central Bank Commission announced that their quantitative easing program, they're going to continue it for 9 months until December of next year. Or they're extending it another 9 months, so it will last until December of next year. But they're going to lessen the amount of bonds that they purchase. So the market had that negative reaction to that. Initial jobless claims report came out, measures individuals filing for unemployment benefits for the first time. That dropped 10,000 to 258, and that was 3,000 higher than expectations. Last week's figure was unrevised. Continuing claims fell by 79,000, and this was the 92nd straight week that claims have been below the 300,000 mark, which is the longest streak since 1970. Overall, the claims have remained very strong, and companies are holding on to their employees. That's a good thing, Jim. That means they're holding on to us. That's all right. Hold on.
Baby, hold on to me.
Who did that song?
Eddie Money.
Eddie Money. Baby, hold on. I just saw Eddie Money last summer.
He was in town.
Yeah, he was with Boston. So, let's see. Mortgage bonds are still in the middle of a wide range. They gave back all of yesterday's gains. So, Barry's saying carefully floating is his stance, but be ready to lock in if there's any big movements, which is probably pretty solid advice as usual from MBS Highway. Let's see what else we got. Talking about unemployment rate, Jim. We talk about that on here every once in a while.
Oh yeah, well, we kind of have to.
We kind of have
You're
to.
out of work, you can't buy a house.
That's right. Absolutely. That's a very important item. But we talk about the unemployment rate that gets posted in the news is the big one, and that's always like right now. The last time it came out, it was 4.6%, and everybody said, "Oh man, it dropped." It was like at 4.9 before or 5. And it had a big drop here this last time. But the one that we talk about on here, along with a lot of other people too, is also called the U6 rate, which measures the people that have left the labor force. They're no longer looking for work. And that the unemployment rate was U6 unemployment rate for November was 9.3, and that's the largest measure of unemployment and underemployment. And that's the best number since April of 2008. And this is coming from Elliot Eisenberg, our friend, the bull-tie economist.
Yeah.
And the U6 rates is a quick way to measure the labor force slack, and that number is 4.7. At the housing boom peak in April of 2006, it was 3.4. At 4.7, Elliot's calculated that there's tops another 1.5 million people who want to work more, and that is not much slack. So actually, the labor market is pretty good right now. People are finding jobs. I think it's probably a question of the type of jobs that they're finding.
Yeah.
Is the problem. It's a lot of service jobs. I think when they look at the job numbers that are created, the last couple of months, it's been more, manufacturing continues to decline. Obviously,
Right.
Energy sector jobs have gone down, and a lot of it is derived in the service sector, which can be, financial services
Sure.
down to, jobs at McDonald's, I'm guessing, is what they look at. So, you always have to look at those numbers, behind the numbers, so to speak, to know, okay, the unemployment rate dropped, but what kind of jobs were created? That's the main thing to look at. The rest of the show today, we're going to talk about yurts and teepees a little bit.
Yurts?
Because down at our the No Dapple protest camp,
Yeah.
a lot of people are give them a lot of credit. They are standing firm down there, and they're surviving the blizzard and whatnot,
Right.
and they are using permanent type structures, but they're also I've heard the yurts and teepees that people have constructed. They are definitely better than tents.
Oh, yeah.
As far as I can tell. I would not want to be in a tent down there, but I looked up how a yurt is constructed and how a teepee is constructed, and I think it would just be interesting to know that you can survive.
Yeah.
It's not something that is, these were constructed and used over the centuries probably,
right.
By people in our type of climate, so they work.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about how they're used and how they're constructed. And
now, musically today, we are talking about the Hollies. We're
Yes.
going to do the best of the Hollies. We are going to get to that, but first we got to take a moment. We lost another one. 2016 continues to take its toll right to the bitter end. Greg Lake of Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Oh, yes.
And it's a sad irony that this time of year we play his song, his solo hit, which is one of the best Christmas songs ever made. Called
Okay.
I Believe
We're
in
going to
Father
play it.
Christmas.
We're going to play
And
it.
we're going to play this in memory of Greg Lake.
He just died today?
Just in the last day or so, age 69.
I did not hear that. Okay.
Here's his big hit.
All right.
Great song.
Right now, one above.
Here's Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons on Super Talk 1270.
Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Yes. Greg
Remembering Greg Lake. We just found out that Greg Lake passed away in the last day or so. He was 69.
Greg was the bass player.
I believe
guitar
so.
player
Well, there was
for-
Keith Emerson, who
was the
died about a
keyboards.
year ago. Carl Palmer, the drummer, I think he's still around.
Yeah.
But they were in the early 70s as what we called at the time progressive rock.
Progressive. Prog rock.
Prog man.
Progressive.
Yeah, we had all the heads in high school who would sit around on the weekends. They never got girls. The jocks got all the girls, but the prog heads, they would just sit around and listen to Pink Floyd and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and smoke a lot of wacky tobacco and tell each other how cool they were.
Well, the title of one of Emerson, Lake and Palmer's records was Brain Salad Surgery.
Bingo.
That's all you need to know right there.
Welcome, my friend. So I guess we'll put the Hollies on hold, or maybe we'll sneak the Hollies in later.
We can sneak them in. And then we had Greg Allman's birthday today also. Greg Allman is 69.
Yeah, God, we got a lot of them today.
We got a pretty good deal.
Yeah, the drummer for the Hollies, his birthday is today.
Yes, his name is, I will get it here in a second.
Not Alan Clark.
It's not Alan Clark. Oh, come on. It is Bobby Elliott.
Bobby Elliott, okay.
Bobby Elliott, drummer of
so
the Hollies. The Hollies just had they had some really good tunes.
Oh, well, the harmonies were amazing.
Yeah. Well, Graham Nash.
Well, Graham Nash.
Band, so
Need we say more?
Yeah.
All right, but we do have to move on because we got to talk business here.
It's business. It's Dakota Housing Network, folks.
Business.
Okay, speaking of, well, let's talk about just real estate here. I don't know if we did this before. Costliest retail location in the world. Where do you think that is, Jim?
The costliest
retail location. I'm going to rent the space for my store. Where would I pay the most money to rent?
I would think California or New York.
Okay, New York. You
Manhattan.
nailed it with New York, Manhattan. Fifth Avenue, between 49th and 60th Streets. The rent is $3,500 per square foot.
Now, when you say New York, you have to differentiate because you got Manhattan, you got Brooklyn, which is a lot cheaper.
Yes.
And Queens is, I mean, they're all pretty high by our standards here.
But this is in Manhattan.
But Manhattan is the highest of the high.
Fifth Avenue between 49th and 60th.
Yeah.
So this would be probably the Saks, Fifth Avenue, et cetera, places like that. So $3,500 a square foot per year. Next, you got Hong Kong at $2,300.
Sure.
How do you say this? The Champs-Élysées in Paris? How do you say
Champs-Élysées, I believe it is. Yeah, that's the main thoroughfare in Paris.
Yeah, at only $1,372 per square foot. And then the New Bond Street in London only costs you $1,321.
Yeah.
Among the 15 costliest locations, only one is in North America, and that is the one in New York. We have the most costly.
You say Tokyo? I understand Tokyo is very high. Hong Kong, okay.
Hong Kong was $2,400 a square foot. So we have the costliest location, but it's the only one in the world in the top 15.
Yeah, the only one.
So how about that?
I would think San Francisco would be up there.
I think that's kind of interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, we promised we were going to talk about yurts and teepees.
Yurts and teepees.
Because it's been in the news, obviously, with our protest camp down there about people are at the camp and they're living in.
We're talking about real estate, of a sort.
And teepees.
Now, what is a yurt? I mean, I always thought it was a chicken park.
I looked this up, Jim. I just thought this would be interesting. So if people they've heard the term, people are living in yurts. I didn't know what that exactly meant.
And they're obviously not living in chicken parts.
Some type of, not a permanent structure necessarily, but actually it could be a permanent structure. But a traditional yurt is Turkish, or a gur, which is Mongolian.
Gur.
It's a portable, round tent covered with skins or felt and used as a dwelling by nomads in Central Asia.
Yeah.
So that's where it came from.
Probably Genghis Khan.
It's a structures comprised of latticework pieces of wood, bamboo for walls, a door frame, etc. Roof structure self-supporting. Larger yurts may have interior posts supporting the crown in the middle. Let's see, they prevent the spreading of it by means of a tension band, which opposes the force of the roof ribs. Really, building structure. Just
now, are you saying they had them here?
Well, they were putting them up down at the protest camp. That's what they were using, was yurts at the protest camp.
I don't know how good the insulation would be.
Well, no. Traditionally, they used felt, skins from animals,
right?
And felt in that. So
that's what leather is, and leather is a great insulation.
Yes. So you had the insulation that your animals would have, which traditionally that would be pretty good.
Cows are great insulation. You see cows out there in the winter; they're not wearing coats.
So they're round structures, and you can make them, I suppose, as small.
Round structures.
They're round.
Okay.
I've got a picture here. I wish I could show it to folks.
Because that makes me think igloos, but that's a whole different thing.
Well, actually, very similar looking to an igloo, isn't it? Size-wise in that.
Except an igloo, I think, is made with they make bricks out of snow, right?
Yeah. Now, yurts have been a distinctive feature of life in Central Asia for at least 3,000 years. The first description of a yurt used as a dwelling was recorded by the ancient Greek historian Herodotus. Okay. He described yurt-like tents as the dwelling place of the Scythians, a horse-riding nomadic nation who lived around the Black Sea in the Central Asian region.
Yeah, and the steppes, as they call them.
It consists of expanding wooden circular frame carrying a felt cover. The felt is made from the wool of the flocks of sheep that accompany the people. The timber to make the external structure is not to be found. They would cut it down. They'd trade for the wood, etc. Now, modern yurts are use modern coverings, that are insulated,
plastic.
But they're insulated. I would think, they can be. And actually, there are apparently camps, national parks that use yurts as camping sites. They have yurts put up, and you can rent them to camp in.
Sure.
People buy them. I mean, there's companies that sell yurts, and you can buy them and go put them up on your own land if you want to. And that's obviously what the folks down here have done. So they actually can work. They are meant. Some of them are meant for extreme temperatures.
They are. I was going to say. I was giving you my next question.
They can handle it
because, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, but the old tribes in this area primarily used mud lodges.
Yeah, and
the Mandan.
It would be great. Yeah, the earth lodges. We have them obviously right over here in the Fort Lincoln area.
Which, if you make them well, I would think they'd be great insulation.
Absolutely. We had sod houses as people came over here. They put in sod houses. So. And then teepees, very similar to yurts, except we know the shape of a teepee. They have the flaps in the middle. You put a fire in the middle. You have the flaps up at the top at the crown, and the flaps, the smoke can go out, and you have the air circulation from the door openings and underneath the teepee. So they work. And if you put them upright and you know what you're doing, I'm sure. Hey, they work. So if anybody has more information about teepees and yurts, we'd love to hear from you. 663-1270.
Yeah.
If you're living in one, you want to call in, let us know. We'd love to hear what it's like.
Tell us how warm you are.
Yeah.
Nice and toasty. Did you ever hear the story about the Indian who was tortured in a teepee? They made a movie out of it.
No.
It was called The Pain Was Intense.
The Pain Was Intense. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Oh, boy, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah, you're quite
That's
welcome.
A good way to end out. Oh, okay. Yeah. We're going out on another
Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Okay. From the beginning.
Right now, one above.
Here's Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons on Super Talk 1270.
And now the Hollies.
Look through any window if you can see through the frost.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah. It is the Hollies drummer, Bobby Elliott. It is his birthday today, 75. The Hollies were a great band.
Great band. Alan Clark, Graham Nash. Need we say more as far as...
There you go.
I mean, they were a groundbreaking band for vocal harmonies.
Yep. Mid-60s, right?
Yeah.
The late 60s.
Yeah.
Of course, Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress, probably the most
that was after the Graham Nash era, but still a great song. The Air That I Breathe.
The Air That I Breathe, yes.
Which was a little trivia here. That was an Everly Brothers song that they covered.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you had She Ain't Heavy, He Ain't Heavy,
The Road Is Long, which was co-written, I believe, by Neil Diamond.
Those are, I did not know that.
Like I say, I'm just a walking college of rock and roll knowledge.
You are, man.
I can't balance my checkbook, but that's kind of why we're here today.
That's why you're in the business, man.
That's why,
Yeah, you are the walking encyclopedia.
No, I was saying, talking about housing stuff.
Yes.
My garage door is frozen open. It's been frozen open since... for 3 or 4 days now.
Yeah,
and we're finally going to go in there today.
Understandable.
We got to shovel out the front of the door. Apparently, what happened was some snow and ice got into the system.
Yeah,
and it just won't close. It's all the way open. Yeah. My garage has been sitting all the way open in this weather since Sunday.
Ouch.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Did you get any snow in there?
I'm sure we got a little bit in there. I'm sure we got some drift in there.
Yeah. Okay.
But I was trying to get my car in there, and I couldn't get the car in because there was too much snow on the ground over the weekend. You know how it was.
Yeah.
And so finally I gave up. I found another place to park, and then I couldn't get the door to close. Well, at one point I got it closed partially. What it does, I got one of those automatic things, and the door comes down, it hits the bottom, and then comes back up again because apparently it's got to hit dry cement in order to stay, but if it hits snow or something and it blocks it, it comes back up again.
Well, there's like you would need to get the any ice or whatever off that area, but I think also there's a tension thing up on the unit itself.
Okay,
you can adjust the settings a little bit, so you could try that too, and you can adjust the settings.
Maybe we should have just had somebody come and do that,
and you could try that and see if that would put it down too, and keep it there. Because I've had that happen at this time of year too.
We have a couple of housing shows on the weekends. You can check the schedule on the website for that. But that's a great. Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah. So, but there is a tension. It's not a tension setting, but it's just a pressure.
Obviously, though, now would not be the time to do it.
It's a little chilly.
You dig your well before you're thirsty.
Yeah.
You don't fix the roof when it's raining.
But sometimes stuff happens and you need to go out there and do something about it. Yeah, like get it closed anyway. Yeah, so you got stuff stored in
Well,
there,
there's nothing in there that's going to be. A lot of it's junk anyway, and a lot of it is stuff that will be okay.
Yeah,
there's no delicate electronic equipment or anything like that. Mostly it's old clothes and some of my old school books, which I have packed away in a box. So they'll be all right.
You don't want to get it stolen or anything either.
Well, no, that's true too. But there's really it's got a ton of stuff in there, but very little of it is really worth anything.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But I would check if you can find a ladder. Or whatever to stand on and look. Right. There's a couple settings on there that you can adjust, and you just have to play with it a little bit which direction to go, and try that too.
Yeah, once the weather settles down a little bit, of course, it's going to get cold tonight.
Yeah, of course, you get rid of the wind, and then it's not so bad.
Yeah, I keep waiting for the wind to die down.
Yeah, I think everybody is.
Now, the wind alert is supposed to expire at noon, which is in about 20 minutes. So I'm hoping to God that by the time I get home, in about an hour and a half from now, my wife and I will be able to bundle up real good and go out and give it a whirl. Yeah. First, we have to shovel what there is in front of the door.
Yeah.
And then we have to lay down the rock salt.
Yeah, this is we were talking about this at my office this morning because we have one person that we work with. She's not able to get out of her home. She lives up north.
I was going to ask you about. We've had that happen here. Well, it wasn't me, but we had a couple of our DJs on the other stations who we had to sub for because they could not get out of their houses.
Yeah, this lady, she lives up north by Baldwin on a farm. And
Yeah, especially folks who live outside the city.
Yeah, and she has not been able to get to work because, number one, she's got big drifts just in her yard for them to get out. But then there's so they can take care of that themselves, but then they've got the roads out there to handle with, and the county hasn't gotten to them yet to plow the roads out.
The state, I think, is pretty good. The counties, I think it depends on what county you're in.
You're pushing, obviously the state and the city, they
the state is the interstate,
They get the highways, the interstate going, and then it's the snow emergency routes.
Right.
And the highways, but then in the county, I'm sure they're going to concentrate on any main county roads that they have.
Yeah, they're going to start with the important roads,
and then you hit all the you've got township roads and all this stuff that they have to get to, and that probably takes a while.
There's still roads in my neighborhood that up to, I can't say for today, because I did see some of the plows out this morning. Yeah. But as of late yesterday, a lot of those side county roads had barely been touched.
Yeah, but when you're talking, when you got houses around and buildings and whatnot, and you get these drifts that are 10 feet high, some people were saying, and there's a picture somebody had on Facebook I saw where a mail truck was going through a little tunnel.
Yeah.
In North Bismarck.
Well, the picture I like is the one where the guy opens his garage door from the inside, and it's all a wall of snow with the imprint of the garage door in it.
Yeah, so that's 8 feet high probably.
Yeah,
you drift right there. So we were talking in the office this morning. When was the last time we remembered a storm where we got drifts like this? No, I was pretty fortunate where I'm at. I live
I
kinda
was
right in the
thinking,
middle of
remember
town.
a couple
I don't
of
get
years
too many
ago
drifts.
in early May when we had one last big storm?
Yeah.
About 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, we were thinking 13, but that was later in the season.
Yeah, it was like
So,
early May.
Everything just kind of melts.
Should be out swimming in early May.
Yeah, but everything kind of melts.
Oh, yeah.
But we were thinking, in the winter, in the heart of winter, when was the last time we had drifts that were gonna, they were gonna stick around? And then what happens? Of
It
course,
has been a while.
Is you cut a path through it.
Yeah.
Well, then if next time you get a windstorm, it fills up again.
Yeah.
And that's what happens till you get it kind of cleared out.
Right.
Or it melts down. So
I hate getting stuck.
Yeah.
I know nobody likes it, but
So it's been a while, I think, since we really had a blizzard like that created those kind of drifts around the area.
well, that's what my wife keeps telling me. What are you complaining about? It's been like 5 years since we've had this. If we get once every 5 years, I just don't like it.
Yeah, you don't like it. It's
I
fine.
don't like it.
Yeah. So anyway, it certainly affected commerce and people getting around this week. That's for sure.
Yeah, I
Without a
mean,
doubt.
how does that affect the pricing of real estate for people who want to move here, but they know that the winters can be pretty brutal?
Well, I don't know if it affects the price of a home.
Would that knock a few thousand off the price if it comes up in negotiation?
I doubt it, because
Really?
if somebody's moving here for a job and they're that's what I'm doing now, I'm looking for a house.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to knock $3,000 off my price just because it's winter.
Okay.
Now I might have. You list your home at this today, and it hasn't sold a month from now. Maybe the realtor says, "Well, we maybe need to drop it a little bit."
Yeah.
But that's normal.
But in and of
business.
itself, it's just par for the course.
That's normal business, I think. Realtors, you call in and 663-1270 and tell me different. But I don't think just because somebody is moving here, they're not expecting home prices to be. They are what they are here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Now, whether it's cheaper than in California or New York, well, I mean that's just.
Well, I mean, you can
because
make that
we're
argument
cheaper.
anywhere. You can say California.
Yeah.
What if there's a mudslide?
Yeah.
Are you sitting on a fault
exactly.
line? That kind of thing.
Yeah. You're in Florida or Louisiana with the hurricanes.
My father-in-law, his house is right on a fault line.
Yeah. Yeah. So, wherever you're at, there's weather.
Yeah.
It's just different kind of weather. You're in Oklahoma, tornadoes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Texas, tornadoes, all kinds of nasty storms, hail.
Yeah. So I mean, we have hail up here and that, but so I don't think that makes a difference now. I think today, if you were out looking at homes and you drove up and you say you were looking for a place and you saw that there was this big huge drift in front of the house.
Yeah.
You might say, well, okay, now maybe that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because of the location of the house. Maybe I might not want that one because compared to another one down the street that doesn't have any drift in front of it, I don't know if they're close to the same thing. I don't know if that would make a difference.
I don't know if it would or not.
Yeah.
I mean, is a drift the kind of thing that it tends to happen in certain places more than others?
Well, I think it obviously depends which direction the wind's coming from.
Yeah.
And what you have
I would think
in
there's
your
a lot
yard.
of
Something, does the snow attach to something and then it just starts drifting over?
Or how about this? You live at the top of a hill and you're in an area where it gets real icy and the drifts are high and you got to get up the hill to get home.
Well, that's something to be considered.
I mean, when
here.
you're coming down, you got gravity working in your favor at least.
Yeah, but a little treacherous.
Yeah, okay.
There are some spots in town here. I'm not sure I would buy a house there because of the streets.
I understand.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to take our next break here with the Hollies. What do we got? Just One Look?
Just One Look. Yeah, a great one with Graham Nash. A great video for this. Graham Nash playing guitar. He looks like George Harrison.
Yeah.
Very young.
Yeah.
He's got the Elvis Presley hair. It's very cool.
All right.
Right now, 3 above.
Here's Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons on Super Talk 1270.
More Hollies for you.
Well, stop, baby.
Say, please share my umbrella.
All right.
They were, of course, as the name would suggest, they were influenced by
Christmas?
Buddy Holly.
Oh, Christmas.
Yeah.
No, Buddy Holly.
Well,
yes.
they sing in Lubbock, Texas every year. They sing "Deck the Halls" with Buddy Holly.
Is that what they do instead of?
No,
No. Oh.
No,
Well,
but the Hollies were influenced by Buddy Holly.
and that's hence the name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Beatles named their band after the Crickets.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was
okay.
John Lennon, of course, it was John,
Yeah.
who came up with the clever twist of beat, making the pun on beat.
Yeah. What were the Quarrymen was the original Beatles name.
They were the they were the Moondogs for a while. They were Johnny and the Moondogs. They were the Quarrymen.
Okay.
Then they wanted to be the Beatles, but their manager, it was not Brian Epstein, it was another guy at the time.
Okay.
He said, no, that's not flashy enough. So they became the Silver Beatles.
Okay. Oh,
I don't know.
Glad they kept just the Beatles.
And then Brian Epstein took over, and they became the Beatles.
Yeah.
And
So if we want to see if you want to see the inspiration for the Beatles and the Hollies,
Yeah.
watch the movie with Gary Busey,
yeah,
Buddy Holly.
that was before he went kind of wacky, when he was still an actual actor.
He was still a little wacky back then, but
Well, a
he
little
was
bit.
saner.
Yeah.
Put it that way. Yeah. But that was and it was just the Buddy Holly story, right?
Right, Buddy
That was
Holly's
a
story.
great movie.
Which took a lot of liberties with his real story.
Yeah, but a great movie.
If you ever see the stage production, the Buddy Holly stage production,
Okay.
that was actually a lot more accurate.
Okay.
Because it brought apparently for legal reasons, there were a lot of people who didn't want to be mentioned in the movie.
Okay.
Who were willing to be mentioned in the play, or in a lot of cases they died, and then
Okay.
it was no longer an issue.
okay. All
People like Norman Petty, who was his mentor, he was a record producer, a guy who owned a little studio in Clovis, New Mexico,
Okay.
out by Cannon Air Force Base, and Norman Petty was the guy who really put Buddy Holly's sound together, or helped.
Yeah.
He helped Buddy find his direction.
Yeah.
That was one line from the movie that was dead on. Buddy always said he was like a lot of musicians. He had the sound in his head. He just
get it
couldn't
out.
figure out how to make it happen
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah.
And that's where people like Norman Petty came in.
Yeah.
Is that they were technical wizards.
great
They were
producer,
engineers. They had the engineering training, like George Martin
George
did,
Martin with the
and,
Beatles, yeah.
Sam Phillips with Elvis.
Sure.
And they just knew how to make the sound happen.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well,
great
very
unsung heroes.
You are the encyclopedia
Yeah.
of rock and roll knowledge, man.
What can I tell you?
I tell you, yeah. Well, Dave Flohr.
Still can't balance my checkbook.
Okay, but that's all right, because if we got a rock and roll question, we know who we're calling.
That's right.
All right. Dave Flohr and Jim Walsh are on the Dakota Housing Network. So let's talk a little more housing thing. How about that?
Yeah.
Should we? Okay, Realtor.com.
That's kind of what we're here for, isn't it?
Kind of, but the rock and roll stuff is fascinating,
Yeah,
I think.
rock and
I don't
roll
know
real
what
estate
anybody else
show.
thinks, but Realtor.com predicts 5 housing trends for 2017. We're almost to 2017, Jim. It's, 3 weeks away, right?
Well, I'm sick of all these people I like who are dying.
Yeah.
Prince and Bowie
No
and
kidding.
Greg
Well,
Lake and
Greg
all
Lake,
these other people.
et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll have to do when we end of the year here. Maybe we can go back and look, see who died, and we can play music from all.
I think there's been one or two people I don't like who have died this
Okay.
year. Castro is one of them.
Okay. Yeah.
I won't mention the other one. It's kind of a controversial
All right.
figure.
So anyway, Realtor.com has the 5 housing trends for 2017 that they see. All right. Number 1, millennials and boomers will dominate the market. Okay, well, that's a big...
Just by sheer numbers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just by sheer numbers, they're
Just by
going to do
numbers.
it. Millennials, of course, 25 to 34 or 18 to 34.
But
and
do they have the
boomers are
money?
us.
That implies that they have the money.
Well, that certainly is the
Do
question.
they? I mean, not saying they don't.
Boomers still comprise the majority of the market. Boomers are, and that's you and me, Jim. We're expected to make up 30% of buyers in 2017. I'm not going to be buying a house. You going to be buying a house in 2017?
Yeah, we're like the Billy Joel song. Our fathers fought the Second World War.
Yep.
Spent the weekend at the Jersey Shore, and then made babies right after the war was over. That was us.
Yep. Number 2, Midwestern cities will continue to be hotbeds for millennials. So think Madison, Wisconsin, Columbus, Ohio, Omaha, Nebraska, Des Moines, Iowa, and Minneapolis leading the pack.
Yeah.
And I would say, Fargo, Bismarck are probably, as small cities, we would be leading the pack.
Especially a town like Fargo. Bismarck is, and this is not a put down necessarily, it's a little provincial.
It's not quite
for the young, hip computer types.
Fargo's kind of went. They're a notch above Bismarck, probably
A
in
little more,
size.
a little more boho in the atmosphere. A little more friendly to those the young hipsters with their clove cigarettes.
And
their,
they've got more. They've got the technology companies out there with Microsoft and.
Not to say it couldn't happen here.
Yeah.
I think Bismarck is a little isolated geographically too.
Maybe.
I think that's a big factor. I
well,
mean,
you got Fargo is close to Minneapolis.
yeah, it's 3 hours from Minneapolis as opposed to 7 hours here.
Right.
You know,
that makes a difference.
it does.
But Midwestern cities will dominate for millennials. That's where they like to move, apparently,
Sure.
which is interesting. You know, going to the Midwest.
Well, the real estate's also a lot more reasonable than
the coasts. And
know.
and the thing is, you can do a job from anywhere these days.
That's true.
A lot of jobs you can.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to live in New York City or San Francisco to do this job. I can move to Fargo and do the work.
What about Texas? Now, Texas obviously is very business friendly, but culturally, I can see
Austin,
where a lot of young people might be turned off by the whole Bible Belt thing.
Yeah, but you have Austin, Texas, which is
that's true. Very
a
liberal.
hotbed for music and whatnot.
Yeah.
You know, of course, University of Texas there.
The whole alternate music scene
Big
is
school
based there.
They're kind of it's the capital, but they're kind of an isolated thing in Texas, maybe, I think, almost.
Yes.
You know, because of the culture there.
Well, it's kind of like Fargo here.
Yeah, it probably is.
I mean, there's no other town in North Dakota like Fargo.
No, that is true. Yeah, exactly. Third trend was slowing price appreciation. Realtor.com says nationally home prices are forecast to slow to 3.9% growth from an estimated 4.9 in 2016.
A slowdown in the increase, not a decrease, but a slowdown in the increase.
In price appreciation.
Yeah.
So that's really not a bad thing.
Okay, disinflation, I believe it's
if you're a seller of a house, maybe it's a bad thing, but if you're a buyer, it's a good thing because home prices probably aren't going to go up as much.
And this is a long-term trend. Do we know how this is going to play out with the new administration?
That's the unknown, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think
that's what really bugs me about this guy. Politics aside, is not knowing what he's going to do.
I think if Clinton would have got in, there would have been. I think everybody would have felt more certain about what was going to happen. Everything kind of would have stayed the same.
I don't think a lot of people would have been happy, but they would have said, well, we know what we're getting.
Roughly half the country wouldn't have been happy.
Yeah.
And half would have. But
I would not have been
everybody would have known it's kind of going to stay the same. Now with Trump, you've got 50-50 on whether anybody's happy or not, but nobody's really sure what's going to happen.
There's a lot of roll of the dice involved here.
So anyway, we'll be back next week because I guess Brian Ritter won't be able to do the show next week. So
you're going to be back?
I'll be back. Hopefully Greg will be here.
By all means, welcome.
I know Joe won't be here. So anyway, we'll
it's always a party.
We'll be back next week, hopefully.
Thanks again.
Thanks everybody for Dakota Housing Network signing off.
Stay warm.
Dave and Jim.